Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're looking at a biography that, honestly, feels less like a career path and more like a survival story, really. It
Yep.
spans decades, continents. We've got some amazing sources, including some really detailed international ones from France and Hungary, and they tell the story of Olivia Del Rio.
Exactly. And our mission here isn't just a simple career retrospective. We're trying to look at the sort of architecture of her life.
The architecture, I like that.
Yeah, because you have to see how these huge, life-threatening health crises, a really sharp entrepreneurial mind, and just setting these firm boundaries for herself.
Non-negotiable boundary.
Completely non-negotiable, and how all that shaped a figure who achieved, true longevity in a very tough industry. It's really a study in self-determination.
Okay, so let's lay the groundwork, the basics. She was born Neves de Oliveira in Rio Casca, Brazil, on April 16th, 1969.
Right. And she holds both Brazilian and French citizenship, which becomes absolutely critical later on. It explains so much about her career path.
And to really get the scale of her journey, you have to know where she started.
Oh, absolutely. Her upbringing in Belo Horizonte was profoundly modest. She was the 12th of 16 children.
16?
16, 8 brothers, 7 sisters. Her father was a carpenter. It was, a massive, humble family.
So she comes from this huge, grounded family in Brazil, and then at just 24 years old, her entire life just gets torn apart.
This is the moment. This is the crisis that really informs everything that comes after. At 24, she's diagnosed with cancer.
Unbelievable.
And the sources are very clear on this next part. Her physician basically told her, you need to go to Europe for treatment. Your survival chances are just better there.
That is a staggering thing to hear. Not only are you facing a deadly disease, but the path to survival means leaving your husband and your 3-year-old daughter.
And crossing an ocean, it shows this incredible immediate focus on self-preservation. It's just raw survival instinct.
You could see how that would set the tone for every professional decision she makes later.
Right. It absolutely does. And when she gets to France, it's not like opportunity was waiting. She tried modeling. That didn't work out. So she had to work as a housekeeper, a maid, just to make ends meet while getting treatment.
And this is where it gets really interesting, because the big break wasn't an audition or some calculated career move. It was a total accident.
A complete accident. One of her employers happened to be a man named Patrice Cabanel, a director of amateur X films.
And he saw something in her.
He did. He suggested she pivot into the industry. And the irony is just, it's perfect. Her very first film, Fist Overdose in 1995, what role does she play?
Let me guess. A chambermaid.
A chambermaid. A soubrette. It was an exact reflection of the job she was doing in real life just to pay her bills.
So once she made that pivot, she went all in. She didn't just dip her toe in the water. You see this really strategic physical transformation almost right away. In 1995, she has a breast augmentation.
Right, going from a 90A to a 90C.
And this wasn't even her own money. It was paid for by the director and producer Pierre Woodman. That's a huge signal, right? It's an investment.
Oh, it's a massive signal. It basically anoints her as a high-end commodity for the European market. She had the look, about 1.69 meters, 50 kilos, and that famous scorpion tattoo on her right buttock.
Which became a signature.
Exactly. It was part of her brand. But even with that investment, she hit this really strange wall in France. A language wall.
What do you mean?
Well, for the big French studios like Dorcel, she was often given these secondary roles with no lines. Or sometimes they just dubbed her voice entirely.
Wait, so the country that literally saved her life is now limiting her creatively. Why? Just because of her Brazilian accent?
Pretty much. The French domestic market at the time, especially for narrative films, had a very specific idea of what a star should sound like. Her accent just marked her as an outsider. But it ended up being a blessing in disguise, really. It forced her to look toward the international market, which cared a lot less about accents and a lot more about, action.
And it paid off big time. Her career just explodes in 1996. The legendary Joe D'Amato wrote a leading role specifically for her.
That was Les Nuits d'amour d'Antoine et Cléopâtre. She played Cleopatra. And that was the role that put her on the global stage. It completely bypassed the whole French accent issue.
And she found a huge audience in Italy, of all places.
A massive audience. Part of it was this perceived resemblance to classic Italian actresses, like Sophia Loren and Gina Lollobrigida. It gave her this instant star quality there.
That success let her carve out a very specific niche for herself, right?
A very powerful one. She quickly developed this reputation for specialized scenes, specifically sodomy and double penetration. It required incredible intensity.
And that specialization earned her a pretty formidable title back home in Brazil.
It did. They dubbed her La Reine du Sexe Anal, the Queen of Anal Sex. And her work with Rocco Siffredi in the 1996 film Torero won an AVN Award for Best European Film. That cemented her as a top-tier global performer.
So she reaches this incredible peak. She has a specialty, she's winning awards, she's in huge demand. And then in 1998, she just stops. She walks away.
And the reason she did is maybe the most important part of her entire story. It connects directly back to that original trauma, to the cancer.
Right. It was a stand she took on principle.
Absolutely. She publicly retired because of the widespread lack of condom use on sets back then. It was seen as unsafe, and she had already faced death once. She wasn't going to gamble with her life again for a job.
The quote our sources have is just chilling. She said she did not survive cancer to then die of AIDS.
I mean, can you imagine the courage that takes to say that publicly and walk away from all that money, all that fame?
It's a radical business decision, choosing her life over her peak earning potential.
Precisely. It was a huge sacrifice, but it was all about self-preservation. And during that time off, she focused on her family. She had a second child with her new husband in France.
But the break wasn't forever. She comes back in 2001.
She does. And she only came back because the industry itself had changed. By 2001, condom use had become much more standard, much more democratized on sets.
So she could come back on her own terms.
On her own terms. And this time, she was getting the leading roles in the big, prestigious productions, including from Dorsel, the same studio that had sidelined her before.
And it's clear she wasn't just thinking about her film career at this point. She was trying to build something bigger, right? That entrepreneurial spirit.
Oh, sure. She launched her own website, which was pretty standard then, but she also made this huge leap and opened a restaurant in Marrakech, Morocco.
A restaurant. That's a classic pivot, trying to move into a more, respectable business.
It is, but the irony is just, it's brutal. The restaurant failed. She had to close it in 2007.
Why?
Because her past career, the very thing that made her famous and gave her the money to open it, caused huge problems for her in the more conservative culture of Marrakech. Her public persona just didn't work there.
Wow. So her fame was both the key and the lock.
Perfectly put, but it didn't stop her. Our sources say she currently runs a bar with her husband, and they split their time between France and Morocco, so she found a way to make it work.
What's also fascinating, though, is that while she's known for this highly specialized adult work, she was also popping up in mainstream French cinema.
That crossover work is so key to understanding her. She was in a film called Déjà Mort in 1998, and she worked with a major director, Cedric Klapisch.
Right, in his 1999 film Peut-être. She's a figuration, which is like an uncredited background role.
A naked woman in black and white, to be specific. But the real full-circle moment, the most incredible detail, is another project she did with Klapisch.
This is the short film.
This is the short film. In 1998, the exact same year she retired over safety concerns, she appeared in Le Ramoneur des Lilas,
Which is a film for?
the French health ministry. And the entire point of the film was to encourage condom use.
No way.
Yes. So she was lending her star power to the very cause that forced her to put her own career on hold. The principle was that important to her.
The power of that is just immense. And we see her everywhere, really. College Girl with Joe D'Amato, filmed in Budapest, even a couple of episodes on a Swedish TV show. She was truly global.
Absolutely transnational, which makes her list of awards even more impressive because they span almost 30 years.
Okay, so let's run through the highlights of that recognition.
Well, it starts early in Europe. She wins a Hot Door in 1997 for Best European Supporting Actress. Then in 2002, a FICE Award for Best Actress.
And then she gets massive recognition in the U.S.
Right, 2004 was her year at the AVN Awards. She won multiple awards for productions like Rawhide and Beautiful. And crucially, she was nominated for Female Performer of the Year, which shows, huge respect from the industry as a whole.
So she's winning for specific films, for technical production, and getting nominated as the best performer overall. That's huge. But the final piece of recognition is still to come.
That's the capstone, the ultimate validation of this entire winding career. In 2025, she's being inducted into the AVN Hall of Fame. It's the industry acknowledging that her career, with all its breaks and pivots, truly defined an era.
And speaking of endurance, she retired again in 2009. But that wasn't the end of the story either.
Not at all. She came back again in 2024. She's creating new content for online platforms, filming new scenes for private. it never really stops. When you look at the whole picture, over 300 films, a song in Portuguese, all of it, the volume of work is just staggering.
So if we pull back, what's the takeaway here? We have a girl from a huge, modest family in Brazil. A cancer diagnosis forces her to immigrate. She works as a maid. She builds an international career from nothing.
And then she deliberately sacrifices it. She sets a boundary based on her health, based on her own survival, saying she did not survive cancer to then die of AIDS.
The synthesis seems pretty clear. Her entire story is a testament to how your personal boundaries, especially the ones you set for your own health and survival, can end up defining your professional success.
Exactly. She used those early, hard lessons in survival to protect herself later on. And by doing that, she paradoxically gave her career a much longer arc than many of her peers who never took a break.
The story of Olivia Del Rio really shows that no matter what's pushing against you, illness, a language barrier, cultural conflict, that internal resilience, that ability to say no, is the ultimate tool for building a legacy that lasts.
Which leaves us with a question for you to think about. Given her history of navigating these life-threatening risks and her decision to step away when that risk became too high, what is the most surprising career pivot or retirement reason in any industry that history has shown was absolutely essential for a person's long-term success, or even more basically for their literal survival?